commissiony on that one.
Is
that a word?
A little commissiony would be he sabotaged the Lakers is what he did, because let's keep something in mind. For all the Laker fans out there who are listening right now, let us not forget, if you had Chris Paul with Kobe Bryant, and then you would have the rest of that roster, and then you were able to somewhat rebuild for a year or so, and Andrew Bynum was on that team, like you had some talent other than just Kobe and Chris Paul, the Lakers would not be in the mess they're in now. Chris Paul would still be a Laker through this year at least. And what is hilarious to me is that David Stern has the audacity to sit there and try to blame somebody else 6 years after it happened.
Why is it coming up again? That's what I was talking to a buddy of mine,
right,
who was actually bringing this up a couple of days ago to me, and why is he bringing this all up now? Is this because of how Durant is just killing it in Oakland? And like, why did that trade go through, and why is that super team allowed to be made and not others?
Do you think Stern somewhat feels guilty for the fact that one of the trademark franchises in the NBA in the Lakers, who have literally won about a fourth of the titles that have ever happened, sorry Clipper fans, do you think he somewhat is starting to see the negative ramifications of not having a good Lakers and Celtics team, and seeing the toll it's taking on the league, and maybe that's where he's starting to draw the correlation that this trade may have set that in motion?
That could be part of it. The other part is there's been a lot of in the playoffs and now leading up to the finals, there's been a lot of conversation in the sports shows about the super teams and super teams that are forming, and how there's only 2 or 3 of them. And I think because he was, I believe in that same podcast, he was talking about how he believes the NBA is much more competitive than people are saying. He was talking, I believe he was talking about super teams, and they were questioning him about this is the commissioner, and they were questioning him on the show, on the podcast or whatever. They were saying, hey, these super teams are forming, and there's only 2 or 3 teams. It's not very competitive, and he kind of felt like his back was up against the wall, trying to show these people that we have a competitive league still, even if, with all these other teams, and he's running out of teams because he blew up the Lakers. So I feel like now he has to go back and go, well, that wasn't really my fault, because he's getting knocked for these super teams.
And I think Chris Lemoyne brings up yet another great point. We forget that's the year they added Dwight Howard. Can you imagine if Dwight Howard had played with Chris Paul? He's 10 times the player at that time that DeAndre Jordan is now. So if you figure that in his prime, Dwight Howard would have had Chris Paul as his point guard and Kobe would have been the shooting guard on that team, I mean, that would have been ridiculous. Like, the firepower would have been stupid on that Lakers squad in 2012. And the fact is, David Stern did a lot for the NBA that was good, but this is the one black mark that and the fact that he suspended Amari Stoudemire and Boris Diaw for leaving the bench when Robert Horry basically hip-checked Steve Nash into the sideline boards.
I do remember that.
Those are the 2 black marks on Stern's legacy, in my opinion. Those are the 2 things he can't take back. The Chris Paul trade was really damning for the Lakers, and you see what it's done to him as a franchise.
They still haven't recovered.
No, absolutely
and
not.
It'll be years.
And it's just proof that all these commissioners who make these decisions, people go, oh, well, it really doesn't matter. No, it does. And that non-trade set back a lot of because look, the Charlotte Hornets aren't any good right now. I mean, they're always finishing 11th or 10th in the East.
They're still in the league?
Of course they are.
I thought they got rid of the Hornets.
Right, and I mean, the Rockets, if James Harden wasn't auditioning to be the Pillsbury Doughboy and turn everything over, I mean, you'd have, a better team there. But if they had gotten Pau Gasol at that time, they'd have never signed Dwight Howard, and the whole correlation in the NBA would have been different. So, moving on from things that could have been to things that are, Brandon Jacobs, for those of you who don't know, was a running back for the Giants and the 49ers in just recent years, as the matter of fact. His career spanned from the mid-2000s to the mid-2010s. And Brandon Jacobs came out this week and said that his old coach, Jim Harbaugh, that guy who's been successful at the University of San Diego, Stanford, the 49ers, he's at Michigan now. He's successful there.
You can say he's successful at the 49ers? I mean, he went to the Super Bowl, but
back to 3 NFC championship games in a row and a Super Bowl appearance. Right. My Dolphins will take that 3 times every single day.
Your Dolphins.
Don't talk about my team. You don't. Who's your football team again?
The Raiders.
They have more Super Bowls. Dang. But anyway, to make my point, and I do like the Raiders outside of the Patriots to go to the Super Bowl anyway, so I'm not hating on the Raiders at all. Basically, Jacob said he would expose Harbaugh. He had no idea what he was doing, and that he would get him fired as the coach of the Michigan Wolverines. First of all, I'm so sour on this for one reason. Who's Brandon Jacobs to come out and say, I'm going to expose Jim Harbaugh? Look, Brandon Jacobs has 2 Super Bowl rings, scored 60 touchdowns as a professional football player, and had a decent career. I mean, he made money. He got a nice contract in the middle of it. He's probably got a pension from the NFL. I don't know why he feels the need to attack Jim Harbaugh. And as far as getting Harbaugh fired, that's his alma mater, and he just got done taking the Wolverines to the Orange Bowl.
I mean, I know I questioned the 49ers things, but one thing I do know is about his college
and at
record.
Stanford, with Andrew Luck, they literally had 11, 12 wins every year, and a Rose Bowl, if I remember right.
And I've always thought that he was a better college coach than he was with the NFL players. He's more of a disciplinarian, I think, and I think that they need that college. No, I don't know what this guy's doing. I think it's bath salts.
Here's what I also think, and I don't want to get political on this show. Here's the thing. Oh, and Chris brings up the fact he backed the product on Shark Tank and it got turned down. That's wow. So in his post-football career, the endorsement's not going so well for Brandon Jacobs. I don't want to get political on this show because that's not what we do. But I want to bring up one thing. Harbaugh is a player's coach, and here's how I know that. Jim Harbaugh, when a lot of people will not do it, Jim Harbaugh put his name to Colin Kaepernick and said Colin Kaepernick's a starting quarterback in the NFL, which right now is a very hotbed topic. And Jim Harbaugh came to the defense of Colin Kaepernick, regardless of whether he agreed with what happened or what didn't. Jim Harbaugh is beloved by most of his players and is talked very highly about.
I always thought I always heard stories, and I don't know, I mean, the dude stood by the quarterback when they didn't have any other quarterback. He said what he had to say as a coach, but I always thought that in the NFL, I always heard stories that he was really hard on his team and that the guys didn't like him. You know, he had all these player rules.
But this is where locker room talk is so misleading. It can go both ways. You can talk to A, B, and C, and they all love Jim Harbaugh, but D, E, F, G don't. So it's one of those things where regardless of whether he's a player's coach or not, Jim Harbaugh's not getting fired from the University of Michigan because Brandon Jacobs.
Right.
And Brandon Jacobs, just as some background, got cut from the 49ers the year they made the Super Bowl because he couldn't cut the mustard behind Frank Gore. So the thing is Brandon Jacobs, in my opinion, this is just sour grapes. All this is Brandon, and this was on, by the way, the Cw&P Facebook page, if you want to check that out. It is Chicken Wings and Pizza sports radio show, and
Christian sports
talk radio show, excuse me. And basically, here's the thing: Brandon Jacobs isn't getting anybody fired. Brandon Jacobs got fired on Shark Tank. Like, I mean, that's exactly what happened. It's the wrong show, I understand. What's up, Spencer Barnes? Welcome to the show, sir. And again, thank you to everybody who's commenting and tuning in, no matter how you're doing that. We definitely appreciate you spending your Saturday night with us. But, I mean, I think we're both sour on Jacobs. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I mean, it's a very bad look for Brandon Jacobs to be doing something like that to a guy who's been successful at 4 different stops. I mean, it's just ridiculous that he's exactly bath salt. So, our final issue on Sweet and Sour tonight is Deshaun Jackson is the newest weapon for Jameis Winston and the Tampa Bay Bucks. Before he's even taken a snap or done an OTA, his offensive coordinator, Ton Munkin, recently said that he relayed a message to Jackson that he came to Tampa Bay for the money, $20 million plus guaranteed, and he needs to produce immediately.
And said it publicly.
Munkin apparently was not shy and made these comments publicly, as you just said. Are you guys sweet or sour on the message he sent to Jackson and the fact he made it publicly? You go first on this one.
Well, right off the bat, I would say sour just because you don't air stuff like that, and that's kind of a weird play anyway. The only thing I could think of that would is maybe something's happening behind the scenes and he feels he needs to step out in front of it, something we haven't heard of, but we haven't really caught wind of anything. I mean, on the surface, this looks way wrong. Like, I don't know why you're calling out this dude before he's played a game, and it's not like you got a bunch of dudes that you can spare. for quality on that team. I mean, without some kind of behind-the-scenes knowledge, I'm sour on this.
Well, here's what I'm going to – I mean, this is where I'm at with this whole thing. Number one, as a former football player, former athlete, I'm sour on it for the reason that, number one, he did it publicly. Number two, Deshaun Jackson has more than proven his worth in this league.
Right, I mean,
they didn't give him $20 million guaranteed because he sucks. He's not Jamarcus Russell. Wrong position, but you know my point.
yes.
He's not a bum.
He's got work to show.
He literally he's one of the most important players on any team he's ever played on, despite the fact Chip Kelly thought he was a gang member and got kicked out of Philadelphia for some unbeknownst reason. And here's the thing. The Eagles still wish they had him. Trust
of course.
me.
Yes, they do.
And, I mean, Kirk Cousins put up great numbers with him. Fantastic numbers with him. So now you got Jameis Winston, Mike Evans, Deshaun Jackson, O.J. Howard, and Doug Martin's your running back? I mean, that offense looks ridiculous right now. They look insanely good. And you're going to call out your number 2 receiver because of what? Because of nothing that's been documented that Deshaun Jackson doesn't know what he's doing.
That's why I'm saying there's got to be some kind of behind the scenes, something's going on.
But you and I both know in this business, the number one thing that we have to deal with is the fact that nothing gets said publicly that we need to know.
That's true.
And the thing is, how can Monken seriously take himself seriously? I know that's a double negative, but my goodness. How in the world are you taking yourself seriously, Doug Monken? Like, what are you doing? You're calling out arguably your third best player on offense? Like, I mean, see, and this is why the Bucs have been dysfunctional. If they still were wearing the creamsicle uniforms, I would say that this is typical Tampa Bay. But I think the Bucs are going to be a better team this year, and I think Deshaun Jackson's going to be a reason. I think that Monken was out of his mind for doing this.
I hope things go better, because if not, if this is
and I agree with you, Chris, 6-10 works.
A sign of things to come by what's coming out of the Tampa Bay, it's going to be interesting. But, without some kind of back knowledge, it seems like wrong.
And you know what? If this is one of those things where people are sitting there going, oh, well, the coach is going to do this to show he's in charge. First of all, yeah, okay.
Why do you do it to Deshaun Jackson?
Well, not just that, though. Let me make a larger point on this. This is Phil Jackson saying Carmelo Anthony's better off somewhere else. These coaches, GMs, and presidents need to shush. They need to get off Twitter. They need to stop talking to reporters. They need to stop doing these things that are causing problems within their team for no reason. Carmelo Anthony has a no-trade clause. If the Knicks release him, they have to pay him what he's owed. And here's the thing. They're not going to do that because that's got to be close to $60-65 million at this point. So you're not cutting Carmelo Anthony. The only place Anthony's probably going to go is to the LA Clippers at this point, because it's the only team that would kind of suit it, and he's only going there if Chris Paul stays. If the rumors are true and Paul's giving real license to the Spurs, then you know what's going to happen? Melo's going to be stuck in New York for another season. The Knicks are going to be miserable again, because even the unicorn Porzingis is upset with Phil Jackson. I mean, even Porzingis didn't even go to the meeting. His brother did. His brother went to his exit meeting. For crying out loud, man. These executives, just get off the social media thing. Leave the social media to professionals like us. Like, stop with this nonsense of always sitting there and having whatever, your case needs to be made. Anyway, anything else to add on that point there, Pluto?
No, sir. I believe you've done a fine job.
Well, thank you very much. So we are up against our last station break, folks, and obviously we appreciate all of our affiliates, all of our listeners and viewers, however you're listening or watching. Thank you so much tonight. We are on Not By Bread Alone Radio, Power 102.1 FN out of Atlanta and Boston. Had a southern accent for about 2 seconds. FYI Ministry Studios and FYIMinistry.com, Roku, tune in, or for the app anyway, and then obviously, yes, I messed that up. I'm sorry. Goodness gracious. I'm getting tired. I haven't read this much ever. And then obviously Facebook and YouTube Live. Thank you so much again for joining us, everybody. This is Chicken Wings and Pizza on a Saturday night in Mission Viejo.
The disciples went and did as Jesus had instructed them. They brought the donkey and the colt and placed their cloaks on them for Jesus to sit on. A very large crowd spread their cloaks on the road, while others cut branches from the trees and spread them on the road. The crowds that went ahead of him and those that followed shouted, Hosanna to the Son of David. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Hosanna in the highest heaven. Hallelujah, my King. Hosanna, Hosanna. I've come a long way. See, I'm just a kid that's from Santa Ana. I've traveled this distance, my Savior and King, to bow on my knees and then lay at your feet. I'll praise you forever, the Messiah in Christ. There's no way I could thank you, so I'ma give you my life. And I don't have a palm tree branch or nothing like that, but I wrote you this song. I'm praising you when I rap. Both my hands in the air as people pointing and stare. They can laugh and then mock me, but I don't even care. You're a big deal to me, so I'ma let the world know. If I'm shopping at Walmart or I'm performing at shows, the prophet from Nazareth, Jesus of Galilee, the son of David is here, fulfilling the prophecy. The miracle worker, he's my friend, man, I know him. Yeah, they doubt him, but watch, I promise you he's gonna show him. Jesus comes to Jerusalem as king. See, the next day, the great crowd that had come for the festival heard that Jesus was on his way to Jerusalem. See, they took palm branches and went out to meet him, and they started shouting, Hosanna, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Blessed is the King of Israel. I ever deny you more than once? I'm ashamed. I'm a disgrace to your name. I don't deserve anything. When you hung on that cross, exhausted in pain, beaten bloody, and you still carried your cross all the way. They made fun of you, they spit on you, and they threw stones. What was their problem? Couldn't they leave you alone? There's tears in my eyes thinking you got crucified, and I'll leave you to hang. I wanna throw up inside. I'm not worthy at all. I don't get it, why me? I was so lost in the world. Why'd you come and find me? Yeah, I love you, I love you, I love you for real. And every time that you ask me, I'll give the same answer still. I mean, you rose from the grave, all my sins you forgave, and then you hung on that cross and took on all of my pain. There's nothing that means more to me than you, so I sing Hosanna in the highest, my Father is King. When they brought the colt to Jesus and threw their cloaks over it, he sat on it. Many people spread their cloaks on the road, while others spread branches they had cut in the fields. Those who went ahead and those who followed shouted, Hosanna! Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Blessed is the coming kingdom of our father David. Hosanna in the highest heaven. Hosanna in the highest heaven. The King is here.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the final segment of Cw&P on a Saturday night in Mission Viejo. I am your host, Big Mike, and I'm here with my producer, Project Pluto. Hebrew
Hello.
is out for this evening, so we are doing this show and having a great time. All of our affiliates, once again, in BBA Radio, not by Brett alone. Power 102.1 out of Boston and Atlanta. Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Roku, and TuneIn. And obviously, FYIMinistry.com as well. It's the easiest way to listen to the show. The TuneIn app's pretty easy, too, though. I do love it. TuneIn's pretty awesome.
TuneIn app is awesome.
No, I do agree. So, in honor of my father, every single week, we update you on the NASCAR standings because that is by far my father's favorite sport. Woo! So, Gene, I hope you're listening. I don't mean to call you Gene, but most people need to know who I'm talking about. The first in the NASCAR standings is Martin Truex Jr., followed by Brad Keselowski. Jimmy Johnson is third. Kyle Larson is now fourth, and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is fifth. Joey Logano fell out of the top five this week for the first time all season. So, interesting times for the Logano crew. We'll have to see if he can rebound this week.
How much time do we have until the chase starts?
I think it's another 10 races.
10 races.
And then they have all these new rules, too, so it's kind of an interesting deal at this moment. So, I want to ask you a question, because yesterday I was shocked by some of the sports news, and I'm very rarely shocked. But in this particular case, I was very shocked when Jeremy Maclin was cut by the Kansas City Chiefs He had a cap hit of $12.4 million. He had a dead money hit of $7 million, which means the Chiefs had to pay $7 million regardless of if he was on the team or not. And if he's on the team, it's a $12.4 million cap hit. The Chiefs are saying they did it for business reasons. However, the players feel it's a very personal thing because they don't feel Maclin should have been cut. So the interesting part about this is you now have the players against management a little bit. Very popular player. He was productive. I mean, he had 131 catches and 10 touchdowns over 2 years. Now, keep in mind, he spent most of last year hurt. And Alex Smith has an affinity for not being able to throw downfield.
Duh.
So here's the thing. I don't necessarily blame Maclin that he wasn't as productive as he was in, say, Philadelphia. But here's my question to you, Pluto. Now that he's out on the open market, where exactly does Jeremy Maclin end up?
Well, that's a good question. Who's looking for a good wide receiver?
Well, my thought...
Who's looking for any wide receiver?
My thought was he either ends up in San Francisco, Indianapolis, or there's always the Patriots. So, I mean, you're talking there's several teams that need a good second or... I mean, Jeremy Maclin could still be a 1 depending on the situation. And the one place I think he would fit great would be in Cleveland. Because they're going to need receivers.
Yeah.
And Corey Coleman, if he can actually play to his potential, will be really nice.
And they're going to need receivers that have been around for a bit to kind of calm down the quarterback.
That's what I'm saying. And if Brock Osweiler's your starter, you're just going to need somebody who can just catch the ball.
Anyway, yeah.
So it's like, my big thing on this, I'm not a big fan of the Chiefs letting him go because you had Tyreek Hill, Jeremy Maclin, and you also had the fact, and Alicia Wexler chimes in with the Bears. You know what, Alicia? That's not a terrible place either. It is a terrible place. But my point is that the Bears are kind of a dumpster fire, though. I don't know if that's quite where Maclin wants to end up. The other
dumpster fire.
The other play, they're the flame in the dumpster without a doubt. My point is that the Texans might not be a bad spot either. And
because they got that new quarterback, they got
Deshaun Watson, and they've got Hopkins. And you could go opposite Hopkins with Maclin. I could see that happening.
And the same theory applies with the Browns with the Texans. You need one more stable receiver to talk to that quarterback.
Right. And the other thing that makes sense is for the 49ers. Because, the 49ers definitely. So there's a lot of teams that could use him. Macklin's a very serviceable veteran who probably still has a couple good years left in him. So where do you officially think he's going to go?
You know what? I like that Texans and Browns thing. I like pairing him up with a new quarterback.
Okay, fair.
So I would like to see Browns and Texans.
As sad as this is for Jeremy Maclin, I think I know who's going to give him the most money, though. The Jets.
I was just going to say the Jets.
Because the Jets are a bigger dumpster fire than the Bears. Actually, they're a forest fire.
That is a 4-alarm.
I want to make this statement.
Run.
I want to make this statement on Cw&P right now. If you lose to the Jets this season, you officially no longer get to be in the NFL. Like, you officially...
That's the cutoff. Hey, we should do it like Premier League.
And see,
there's a table cutoff.
And the problem is my Dolphins play them twice. So we have 2 chances for that to happen. The only team exempt from that, I think, will be the Patriots. So we'll have to see. Yes, thank you very much. So I wanted to end the show with a brand new part of the Dessert Platter segment, and it is the Dessert Platter, sponsored by Whipped Up by Wit. Sorry, everybody, I messed that one up. Chris Lemoyne says the Saints for Maclin. Actually, they just lost Brandon Cooks.
Right,
they have Michael Thomas and Willie Snead. I mean, that's not a bad fit. That certainly would work for Drew Brees.
One more person to throw to.
Yeah, exactly. And not to mention the fact they probably get Maclin cheaper, and he's still getting paid by the Chiefs.
Would he go in the slot? He's sticking in the slot.
No, actually, you'd put probably Thomas in the slot, let
bigger.
Maclin play outside because Thomas is bigger.
He's bigger.
So, yeah, there's no question. So it's I actually like the Saints. I think that's
not
actually
bad.
a pretty decent part of the input, considering he might be a role player. But anyway.
Is Chris calling in?
Is he calling in?
Were you saying he was going to call in?
No.
Oh.
No.
Behind the scenes stuff, guys.
I wanted to have him on, but we didn't have enough time left. So
that's right.
Yeah. So
no Chris today.
I wanted to have Chris Lemoyne on, and Chris, we'll get you on soon, buddy. I promise. It's just
probably not
a matter of wow. That's rough. You know what? He's a Raiders fan. He's just hating on you, Chris, because you're a Patriots guy. That's all it is. So
right.
Don't worry about it, buddy.
And I control the mics.
Well, yeah, he technically does. And we're both named Mike, so technically you control that too. So look, it's a bad pun to begin with.
It's the end of the show. We're running out of jokes.
Yeah, exactly. No, the jokes are awful tonight. We don't have our funniest person here is why.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, Hebrew's a regular stand-up comedian when he's here. So I mean, like we're at a disadvantage. I can't help that.
Man. It's game
So
over.
I wanted to end with who are you taking? And this segment is inspired by our debate last week when we were talking about the Seahawks and would you take Russell Wilson's side or would you take a guy like Richard Sherman's side? But I put a little bit of a twist on it because I don't want to be picking quarterbacks versus cornerbacks. I want to go same position. So here's my first one. Would you take Richard Sherman, who notoriously plays one coverage, or do you take a guy like Marcus Peters in Kansas City who can play every defense? And in 2 years, Marcus Peters has 14 interceptions in 2 years, his first two touchdowns, and Sherman has 30 interceptions, 2 TDs in 6 years. Who are you taking out of those
I'm
two?
a stat guy, so I'm going with Kansas City. But yeah, he's more versatile. I've always, and I'm not going to say that Sherman isn't, obviously the man's talented. He's in the NFL.
Right.
But we all know the dude plays one scheme. And
Well, of course he does. He plays a cover two.
Yeah, plays a cover two.
Plays it very well, mind you.
Fantastic.
But I would compare Marcus Peters to more like a guy like Deion Sanders who
Right.
can play everything.
That's the point I'm trying to get to, is that you've got a guy who can fit into no. That's great because you got a guy who can fit into different schemes and different plans. There's a lot, but and Sherman's great, but no, I definitely would not go with Sherman.
I'm going Marcus Peters on this, and it's real simple. Marcus Peters is the future of cornerbacks in the NFL. He is the best young corner out there, and it's arguable that in 2 years in the league, he's a top 3 guy. I mean, well, give me 3 people better.
No. All right.
I mean, you could sit there and make the case for Sherman. You can make a case for Patrick Peterson.
I would.
But you can't make a case for anybody else who's going to be better than Peters. I mean, when you look at the corners across the league, who are you going to pick?
No,
I mean,
true.
Stephon Gilmore in New England, maybe, but he's not. It's yet to be seen how.
I was going to say he hasn't.
He had one really good season and got a fat contract off it, so we'll have to see how that ends up. But I think we're both going with Marcus Peters, yeah?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yep.
So the next one is going to be one that's going to be highly debated. Are you taking Tom Brady with his 456 career touchdowns?
Stop it. Just
97.2 passer rating and 5 rings, or Aaron Rodgers with 297 career touchdowns, a 104.1 passer rating, and 1 Super Bowl?
No. I mean, I'm not gonna say anything bad about Aaron Rodgers because obviously that dude's a beast, but I think Aaron Rodgers wishes he had Tom Brady's record, and that tells you all you need to know right there. So, I mean, listen, who besides Montana, who are you going to put up against Brady in the modern era, in the past, in anything? I mean, I'm not a Brady fan, you guys. I mean,
No, he's a Raider guy.
I'm a Raider guy, so
Tuck rule.
But yeah, Tuck rule. But
that's how you get those Raider fans riled up. Just say Tuck rule. Junkyard dog over there.
But I mean, if there are very few players that we can say, okay, do you take this guy or this, and you have to just stop. Mm-hmm. And Brady's one of them. You just got to stop. You can't come up with another name. You certainly can't come up with another name in the era that he's thrown with. I mean, even Manning. I mean, you cannot. He's just, you got to just accept that that's the dude who's balling for right now, and granted, he's probably got another 2 years, maybe in him, maybe 2 years.
Here's how I look at Tom Brady. Tom Brady's the GOAT. He is the greatest to ever do it. There is no question.
He's the Jordan.
Here's the thing. People will argue that Aaron Rodgers has had less to work with at times. Nobody's had less to work with in NFL history than Tom Brady. The argument that you could make for Montana is his 4 rings and no losses, but look at who he's throwing the ball
throwing
to.
to Rice. He's throwing
Rice, Craig, Taylor, Jones, Solomon, Clark. I mean, I can go down the list of guys he's played with. Brady doesn't have that. Brady's had, Randy Moss and Rob Gronkowski, who are going to end up in the Hall of Fame. And that's it.
And Gronk is down every other game.
That's it.
Yeah. No, I get you.
I mean, here's the thing. Brady has done it with less over time. And here's what I will say for Aaron Rodgers.
Look at Chris's comment on Facebook, please.
Wow, that's...
See, this is...
But he's right. I believe that he's correct. Because Olivia Munn got dumped by Aaron Rodgers. So technically, she's probably a bigger Tom Brady fan now. But my point is this. Aaron Rodgers, and I know that most people look at him as the second best in the game. But here's the thing. How many times has Aaron Rodgers been to the NFC title game and not made it to the Super Bowl?
Right.
How many times? They had an 11-point lead on Seattle all but 3 years ago.
I remember that game.
The NFC title game before they lost to the Patriots. And they had an 11-point lead. And Aaron Rodgers, even though that onside kick didn't get recovered, he did touch the ball. And my thing is this. If you're Tom Brady, who comes back from literally 25 points down in the Super Bowl, sorry, Atlanta, you're sitting there, and it is one of our affiliates, so I really am sorry.
My bad.
But here's the thing.
We love Atlanta.
Tom Brady, the Patriots do too. But my point is, Tom Brady brought him back from a 25-point deficit. You can't argue that the man is the best ever.
You can't.
And I want to throw a trivia question out there.
Ooh, I love trivia.
What's the biggest deficit any team had ever come back from before the Patriots' comeback victory?
In the Super Bowl?
In the Super Bowl. Most points any team's ever come down from.
14.
10.
Ooh.
And it only happened twice. In Super Bowl 17, Washington was down 10-0 to Miami.
And guys,
came back and won.
Guys, Big Mike is looking straight at me and reciting these numbers.
Yes, that's correct.
He's not looking at a phone. He's not looking this stuff up. This is why this guy is the host of the show.
Thank you very much.
Right. You're like the Rain Man of football.
Now, if I was that good at blackjack. But my point is this.
Steelers, love Steelers.
The second time that happened was when Washington was down 10-0 to Denver early and blew them out in Super Bowl 22. So only 2 other times had a 10-point deficit been overcome for a win. And now all of a sudden you have Tom Brady doing it 25 points and doing it in a fashion where he literally only had about 20 minutes left in the ball game.
Right.
And the thing is, the Falcons, everybody fails to remember this. The Falcons had the ball at the end of the game. They actually could have gone down and scored the game-winning field goal. They literally had the ball after the 2-point conversion by Amendola. So it's like they still had an opportunity, but because they didn't capitalize, Tom Brady, the greatest of all time at the quarterback position, as much as a Dolphin fan, I hate saying that, he still is. So I'm taking Tom Brady with you.
You gotta.
The next one, you and I won't have a lot of debate on, but a lot of baseball writers will. Clayton Kershaw with 133 career wins and 2010 Ks, as we talked about earlier in the show, or Chris Sale, who has 2 fewer years in the league, mind you, with 80 wins and 1,354 strikeouts.
What was his years?
He has been in the league 2 less years than Kershaw. Now, I'm going to take this position on this topic. I'm taking Clayton Kershaw 100 times out of 100 over Chris Sale. Chris Sale is an excellent pitcher. Chris Sale is an excellent strikeout pitcher. Clayton Kershaw is arguably the best player that is not Mike Trout in pro baseball.
And he can hit.
Okay.
But for a pitcher.
No, but what I'm saying is this. Clayton Kershaw is far... Go ahead.
600 has just been hit.
Oh, Albert Pujols just hit number 600, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks for doing it before the show ended. We appreciate that.
Yes, absolutely. Albert Pujols, ladies and gentlemen, has hit home run number 600. He is only the 9th man in MLB history to join that elite club. Just out of curiosity, Pluto, of the 9, how many do you think we can name?
I can name 2.
You want me to go ahead and just go down the list?
Yes.
Barry Bonds.
That was when I
Hank Aaron.
That was my number. That was my 2.
Babe Ruth.
I didn't even. Yeah.
Willie Mays. Sammy Sosa. Yep. Albert Pujols now. Jim Thome, which is the one nobody ever gets. Alex Rodriguez. And I'm trying to think. I already named Mays.
Koufax.
Did you really say Sandy Koufax right now? Did you just say Sandy Koufax? You're so bad. We're retiring you from any more trivia. Oh, and before we get to Pluto's answer, I want to shout out Edison Volquez, who did something today that is incredible. He threw a no-hitter in Miami
we didn't talk about that.
against the Diamondbacks. It's not incredible that he threw a no-hitter. The incredible part about it is he did it on 98 pitches. To give everybody some perspective, that means Edison Volquez literally averaged nearly 11 pitches an inning, which is ridiculous. 11 pitch. If you could do that every game and pitch a complete game, that's good enough. The fact that you did a no wall pitching that way, that's incredible. But anyway, talking about 600, which again, congratulations, Albert Pujols. That's an amazing accomplishment. But I want to go back to this question.
Kershaw thing.
Okay.
Oh no.
And no. Are you taking Kershaw like hands down, like all the time, like no?
Yeah, no. I mean, as far as a solid all around pitcher who consistently, we were talking about the pre-game, whatever. We'll leave with a 1-0. We'll keep it that close. We'll keep your, you got to go. And I'm a little of a homer on it. So
well, of course, but Clayton Kershaw, it was a great piece that was written this week. And ESPN doesn't do much great anymore, but this piece was awesome. Here's my thing. Clayton Kershaw, you could argue right now, is a Hall of Fame pitcher.
Oh,
I mean, without question. He's 133-62. That's unthinkable.
Lowest whip in the history.
And he's been a Cy Young winner. He's been an MVP. I understand Chris LeMoyne's point that he might not have been, as clutch of a Dodger, ace in the postseason.
That's the only thing you can say.
But we had that discussion that he doesn't get a lot of run support. So if you don't get a lot of run support, then I don't understand how in the world people assume that you're just going to be out there and be able to do your thing all the time. Clayton Kershaw cannot hit home runs and pitch 14 strikeouts. He's done it before, but he's not going to do it every game.
No.
So, I mean, as respectful as I want to be to Chris Sale, who's an ace and who can strike batters out left and right, he's just no Clayton Kershaw, unfortunately. And Chris Sale may hit that 2,000 K mark in the next, 2 or 3 years, but he's just not Clayton. Clayton Kershaw is the best player, hands down. The last, who were you taking, I think is the most intriguing one. Because so far we've agreed on every one of these. Are you taking Dennis Rodman or Draymond Green if you have to pick a power forward of those two? Who are you taking?
I guess it would. I mean, this throws back to our role player question. I guess,
little bit,
but
but I'm looking more for like if you
see. I look at it as like, what does my team need?
Well, I'm saying if you have a decision, right? You've already got your other 4,
right?
You have to pick one of these 2 guys at the 4,
right.
So which of the 2 are you going to take?
So, and this is what I'm saying about the role playing part. If I'm needing defense, you pick Rodman all day, knowing that he's not going to do much else, but he's going to swat away anything in the paint, and he's going to take a charge, and he's going to do his thing. If I'm looking for an all-around player at that position, you can't go with Rodman on that because he can't shoot.
Told you this was harder than the first 3.
I would say, but you got to preference you got to put the question in the comments and say, you know what? I like the hair. I go with Rodman.
Okay, fair enough.
Out of hair.
And you know hair. What? This is amazing because I don't think this has ever happened on this show. We agree on all 4 points.
Oh, boy.
I'm going with Rodman, and here's why. Rodman was a defensive anchor on 5 title teams.
Right.
The other thing that people forget is Dennis Rodman went to 5 NBA Finals and never lost. Part of the reason that he did lose one. They lost in 88 to the Lakers, so he did lose one. I am sorry about that. But here's my thing. My point in all of this is Rodman was a defensive catalyst on every single one of those teams. Those Jordan Bull teams, Luke Longley was not the presence in the paint that was stopping people. It was Dennis Rodman. And Rodman was ridiculous when it came to rebounding. We've talked about that. He was the optimum 37 rebounds in one game in the modern era, which is insane. And there is no question in my mind that Dennis Rodman is a Hall of Famer. He's great. Here's the thing. Draymond Green's best feature is his yap. That's my thing with Draymond Green.
Talking about the Raiders.
Yeah, his best feature is his mouth. And he 100% talks more trash than anybody I've ever seen. And yet, he only has rings on his fingers because of the other 4 guys he starts with. And that's what, 3 of the other guys he starts with. And my thing with Draymond is this. Like, you can't sit there and take all this credit. Yeah, he gets in other players' heads. Yes, he can hit an occasional 3. Some nights he gets hot. Some nights he does his thing. Rodman consistently played hard every single night. And you knew that Dennis Rodman's stat line was going to look something like 4 points, 15 rebounds, and 4 blocks.
Definitely Rodman. Real quick, Rodman was drafted what round?
I want to say Rodman.
I don't know.
It was out of East Oklahoma State, and I believe he was a 2nd-round pick.
So Green was a 35th round pick.
No. He was the 35th pick in the draft. The NBA draft does not have never.
I can't read. It's the end of the day.
It is not the baseball draft. They don't have 35 rounds.
I can't read anymore. I lost the speaker.
But my thing is this.
It's going bad.
Dennis Rodman will always be that guy who, while he may not have been able to put the ball in the bucket much, he was the antagonist for so much defense and played defense. And here's the thing. Draymond Green has not played defense on the caliber of players that Dennis Rodman had. Think about who Rodman's had to guard. He's had to guard Scottie Pippen. He's had to guard Michael Jordan. He's had to guard Karl Malone. He's had to guard Shaq. He's had to you can go down the list of guys he's had to guard. So, anyway, we agree on all 4 points. And I do want to thank Project Pluto for being a fill-in co-host for the evening, someone to banter with. Thank you, sir.
Desperately missing Hebrew.
Yes, absolutely. And Hebrew, buddy, get back to us, man. We need you. We definitely missed a lot of arguing tonight. I mean, there would have been a lot more if he had been here. But we love you, man, and get back to us next week. But thank you. No matter how you're listening, whether it be Not by Bread Alone, Power 102.1 FM in Atlanta and Boston, Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Roku, or on the TuneIn app, or just at FYIMinistry.com.
27th pick.
Oh, he was the 27th pick.
I knew it was back there. Thank you, Chris.
Oh, there you go. And I want to say thank you to each and every person listening to this show. It's because of you guys that this happened. A special thanks to everybody who commented on the live feed tonight, who tuned in, who joined, who shared. If you haven't done it already, check out Chicken Wings and Pizza on Facebook and check out all of our updates, our memes, all that cool stuff that we post. And we really do appreciate you guys. This is Big Mike, and for Hebrew, Pluto, and the rest of the crew at FYI Studios in Mission Viejo, this is Big Mike signing out. We'll see you next week.